understand this. We had the break at just after 10 a.m. Eastern, I'd say 10:05 Eastern. The entry didn't come until 10:20, I think it was 10:23:24. I think I entered at 10:23. The short didn't commence until here, right? And obviously my target was a 2R or whatever it was, one point, I think it was 1.8 I caught, 1.8R. So if you just take a look at this setup, look at it carefully and ask yourself, what makes it valid? From all the knowledge you have now, what makes it valid? So there's lots of ways people cope their way out of this. So for example, they might see a lower time frame fair value gap like this. I know some traders rely on SMT, SMC. A lot of it is just lines, right? Lines and patterns. But what gives you the confirmation to actually determine who is in control at this level, right? So it's order flow that tells you who's in control, right? It's very difficult to see otherwise who's in control, right? So what you've had over here is a very, very classic break, and we've had a retest at this level. We had multiple retests at this level, right? So the reason I say that is because we had obviously a 1 minute fair value gap here, but we had this is our high of the retest, so we're going to be focusing here, but we're also going to be focusing here as well inside of this fair value gap, right? We're going to be breaking this down. Now, what made this short trade valid, right? Why was this a valid setup? Okay, let's go to the Discord and see. So here was my entry, right? So my entry that day was at 67.89, right? Stops just above 67.94, right? Just above the level over here. So let's break this down again. So now what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the initial bounce. This was the highest bounce. I call this the retest rejection. So price wanted to retest the level or retest the area. And this is where we had an absorption and an exhaustion, right? Big words, but they're easy to explain, right? So I'm going to break this down. Now, if you look here, what we can see is we can see a lot of blue delta, right? Just like previously, if you look at my previous image over here, we had a lot of blue delta just here. So what does blue delta actually mean, right? So if you're trading fair value gaps or trading SMT divergence or even indicators, try and incorporate the order flow into however you are trading to give you a true indication as to who is in control. So if you're using a VWAP or an EMA, for example, next time price comes and bounces that VWAP or that EMA, try and incorporate the order flow alongside that so you actually know who is in control of the price, because EMAs are lagging. They don't tell you what you're doing. Support and resistance themselves, they don't give you too much context unless you put the accurate context to it, which is what we're going to go through now, right? So I'm going to be breaking down a few delta outliers. I call them delta outliers because delta outliers are essentially areas on the chart which are highlighted in dark, in this case, dark blue. So 351 for 595, 305 for, that says 624. And we also had over here 67 for 412. But if you just focus on these two over here, which corresponds to this region here, aggressive buyers are trying to drive price higher, right? We see aggressive buyers because we can just read the numbers, right? 0 for 243. We see a lot of blue delta, which means that the right number is significantly higher than the left number. The ask is greater than the bid. So what does that mean? So I'm just gonna, this yellow box here, it shows you at 67.95, there is a lot of aggressive buyers, right? They're trying to drive price up. Now, were they successful at this area at 67.95, 94? Were they successful? Well, not really, because we broke below this level. So what does that tell you about this entire level and this entire region from about 67.94 to about 67.90? That 5-point region, what does the order flow tell you about that